dihormati, transisi energi telah menjadi tantangan global dan tentunya bukan hal mudah bagi Indonesia. Banyak tantangan yang dihadapi antara lain dalam hal pendanaan dan pembiayaan, akses teknologi murah, kapasitas jaringan nasional, kondisi geografis Indonesia, dan kapasitas SDM. Hal ini tentu saja membutuhkan dukungan dari banyak pihak, terutama dari dunia internasional. Banyak pengalaman dan wawasan dapat dipetik dari negara-negara lain yang telah terlebih dahulu mengimplementasikan langkah-langkah transisi energi seperti misalnya Inggris Raya. Akhir kata, kami ucapkan terima kasih yang sebesar-besarnya kepada seluruh peserta serta semua pihak yang turut berpartisipasi dalam penyelenggaraan acara ini. Semoga Tuhan Yang Maha Kuasa memberikan bimbingan dan petunjuknya pada kita semua dalam melaksanakan pengabdian yang terbaik kepada bangsa dan negara. Dengan mengucapkan Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, pelatihan manajemen jaringan listrik dan integrasi energi terbarukan dalam transisi energi secara resmi saya buka.
And we're very excited to be delivering courses like this and working with you all through the MENTARI program and other means to share our experiences and try to provide support. We understand that this journey is not easy. It will require large amounts of finance and for some new policies and planning processes in Indonesia in order to deliver the level of renewable energy ambition that has been committed to. As a friend to Indonesia, the UK is ready to support Indonesia through this. We know that the energy transition journey is a challenge, not just for Indonesia, but for countries around the world. There are early adopters, such as the UK, who started this journey in the early 2000s. And despite many pitfalls and challenges, it is now reaping the benefit. And as Pak Krisnawan said, our transition journey has not been easy, and there are lots of good things that Indonesia can learn from, but also lots of mistakes as well. We've been through this process and we're ready to share this experience to help Indonesia accelerate its own decarbonisation and energy access programmes.
For today, which is day one, we'll go over the material around energy transition journey. And tomorrow at the second session, we'll have some discussions and materials around grid management and technical considerations. And on Thursday, the third day, which is the third session, we'll go on looking at the enabling policies and regulations. Now, moving on to the first material of the day, I would be grateful, please, if Pak Kris could give us a bit of context in terms of Indonesia's renewable energy landscape.
Apabila kita ingin melihat capaian NDC Indonesia, pada tahun 2020 capaian realisasi NDC Indonesia dari sektor energi adalah 64,4 juta ton. Seperti itu. Kita lihat total kontribusi dengan countermeasure 1, yaitu target 29%, maka Indonesia harus menurunkan emisinya sebesar 834 juta ton.
There are a few questions that we would kindly ask participants to try and participate in.
So for your information, based on the statistics of Indonesia in 2019, there are numbers of fleet in the road around, if I'm not mistaken, 73 millions. And most likely it came from two-wheelers.
So in session 1, which is covered today, we will hear 3 topics around UK energy transition journey, island-based energy transition case study, and innovative solutions for island-based energy transition challenges. Issues will be covered. The first one is around the energy transition trends and key events, but also the second part will touch on the key actors and stakeholders in the UK energy sector.
But like any system, it needs a set of mechanisms and processes to enable it to work. And thinking of it as a process, this diagram represents what we believe to be the major parts of an integrated energy system. What we have is a place-sensitive mechanism. So as you get further north in the UK, you have to pay more to access the grid. So if you're generating wind in Scotland, you'll pay for the privilege of transporting it all the way down through to England.
So we're entering the second topic, which is island-based energy transition case study, and this will be delivered jointly by Gareth and Mark. This topic will cover 3 groupings of issues. The first one is the Orkney story and some examples around what the Orkney has gone through. And the second group of issues will be around the challenges in renewable energy production, distribution, and integration. And finally, we will look at how to reflect those examples into Indonesia's unique situations.
But what that archipelago nature means is that we have to think about energy in a different way to being a mainland situation. So we have to think about onshore and offshore infrastructure. We have a mixture of resources. Transport in terms of air transport, shipping transport is as important as vehicle transport. And you'll see that through the presentations.
That was great. That immediately created 20 megawatts of new capacity, just like that. The problem was it also went almost as quickly. It went within 2 years as people applied because of the phenomenal resource we've got.
We're going to be kind of mixing between Indonesia and Orkney over the remaining part of this session and into what Ian and Gaynor are going to speak about later on, and to make a choice about how it might be best to connect different communities, different industrial sites to their energy sources.
Have a discussion with both Mark and Gareth, who I'm sure very excited to be able to share what's been happening.
I think I need having some more deeply discussion with you. Interconnection is the best suitable for Indonesia, or just some experts say that the distributed generation, meaning that decentralization is also one of the options in maintaining the electricity supply in some systems. So of course, we need to have some discussion later on. But anyway, your presentation is very insightful.
The innovative solutions for island-based energy transition challenges, and that will be jointly delivered by Ian and Gaynor. And some of the issues covered will be around the ongoing innovations and the opportunities for Indonesia, as well as the second group of issues will be around sustainability solutions for island-based transition challenges, including sustainability practices and some case studies from Indonesian communities.
I'm going to focus a little bit on energy systems, hydrogen, and some other options that we've been working on in Orkney. Gareth presented this slide, and apologies for the same slide coming up again. But what I wanted to say around this slide is, and I think Gareth did start highlighting that the energy system that we're having to deal with is extremely complicated.
Hello again, everybody. I'm going to speak to you about some of the sustainable solutions for island-based energy challenges. So the ethos of our partnerships and the way we work is to really utilise the local knowledge, and that's been from our own learning as an island community.
As Gareth and I'm sure other colleagues in Aquaterra would say, we would love for you to come and visit us one of these days, virtually or in person. That would be a good day for us. So the first topic, Gareth will speak about renewable energy systems technologies, the overview of the different technology, green and blue technology, the advantages and disadvantages of those technologies in relation to the place that will use and benefit from these systems.
Which is first of all to look at a range of renewable energy technologies, and then to look at some of the pros and cons and the advantages that are associated with these technologies. And I'm going to undertake that in the context of particular places in Indonesia. Get us to think about the context for renewable energy in Indonesia. Now, the other part that's important is around the variability of renewables. And in fact, although this is a label that's often given to renewables to say the problem with them is that they're variable.
Okay, so this next topic will be presented by John, and this will include systems approach, principles and codes and standards, and designs principles.
I'm going to try and cover these three areas in three parts. So I was going to start looking at just larger power systems and how they work. Looking at on the left-hand side, this analogy with water. If we want to fill our bucket of water and basically shift this energy, we can either increase the pressure, so we can raise the height of the tank on the left-hand side, or we can increase the diameter of the pipe. So we basically either put more pressure behind the water to make it come out faster, or we increase the pipe to make it flow faster. That's not to say direct current doesn't have a part at all. It's been around for probably longer than alternating current, and it has been used across power systems across the world. And it's really got some significant advantages over AC, and it's certainly got an application in modern power systems. The main advantages of AC is that we can transmit more power, so we can get more power down the same cable size compared with AC. And the other big benefit is that we can use it to link two systems. So if we've got two countries operating, for example, at different frequencies or not in phase with each other, so one country's at 50 hertz and one country's at 60 hertz, we've gone from a system where pretty much all the generation was connected at transmission level, so basically centralized generation, to a system now where 25% of our generation is actually connected at distribution level or local level.
The next topic will be delivered by Duncan and Craig. Both will cover certain issues, including the UK grid, electricity network and integrity reliability, but also maybe share a little bit about the experience surrounding the blackout and outage management that we've experienced here in the UK.
John's touched on some of the background for this already, but I'll give you a short description of the UK grid system and then talk you through some of the aspects as to how that is managed in terms of reliability and integrity. To give you a feel for how the loading on the system varies and how we think about the operation of the grid, really many of the variations day to day are driven by the weather conditions in the United Kingdom.
And from a system setup perspective, we had a good balance and mix across the generation the market provided, and also the right tools and processes in place. So overall, the system in itself and the market were in a good position. See the lightning strikes across various parts of the network, and typically across the UK, we may see over 1,000 lightning strikes across the whole UK at any one with an annual period. It struck a key north-south running down the east side. Typically then the circuit tripped, as you would expect, within a few milliseconds, and then restored itself within 20 seconds. So actually from that point in time, the lightning actually tripped the circuit. It detected the fault was lightning, therefore the circuit being restored, and actually at that moment in time, everything looked like it should have been. So everything was absolutely fine.
And I think in 2023, we have half-hourly settlement coming into the UK, at which point users will be able to be much more flexible about when they take power. So we have some trial smart tariffs at the moment, which could allow you to get down as maybe as low as 5 or 10p a kilowatt hour.
Yeah, so we generally look at the network right from many years out, right down through to day ahead to 1 hour ahead. That's the general process regards how we model the network. When we model the network, we go back and we use the, I think I referenced earlier on, the N-2, so the loss of 2 coincident circuits on the network. And we also look at if there's also already a circuit out on the network, what we then typically call N-3, so an outage followed by 2 subsequent trips on the network. And that is carried out right from many years out, right down through that hour ahead. So, and we are looking at that prevailing network conditions, so what the network looks like, any activity on the network from a construction perspective, outage planning perspective. We're then rolling and laying on top of that then what the demand looks like, whether it's a winter demand or summer demand, and then typically at what point in day as well, so whether it's overnight, middle of the day, or the peak, for example, in winter.
So this next topic will still be with Duncan and Craig. And we'll see how the UK grid renewable energy integration issues have been undertaken and assessed and dealt with, and also some specific issues around moving from synchronous controllable generation to asynchronous. And then there's some areas for discussions around the low inertia solutions and new markets, and also touching on a little bit on the developing smart local energy systems.
And also solar as well. So that drives was 10 to 20 gigawatts of solar, typically at embedded generation levels down the distribution network. That's a significant amount of growth in renewable energy against the backdrop of a peak demand of 50 to 60 gigawatts. So it's a hell of a lot of renewable energy at the same time against what is typically not a significant against demand side.
And as Craig said, by the time we get to 2030, we're expecting that to be a very, very regular occurrence, and for a significant proportion, and indeed the majority of supply, to come from non-synchronous sources. Yeah, I mean, you could take that in many directions, can't you, Nia? But I think the first thing is that probably started slower than we expected, but then that transition has happened much faster than our original forecasts, really, because renewables have become so cheap so quickly.
On reflection, with all of that learning that we've got, is it simply a case of other countries following our pathway, or are there smarter journeys that can be followed, basically? If you look at somewhere like Indonesia, do they simply repeat what we've done, or actually could they take a slightly more effective and efficient pathway, having learned from our experience? I guess that's my key question.
And the first one is on understanding UK renewable energy policy landscape, and then we'll go into the opportunities that Indonesia may have to leapfrog, and also going back and reflect on Indonesia's policy and strategy, and can be suggested as a way forward. For this first topic, Gareth will be with you. The market and on-market incentives, regulatory framework, and some social framework for success.
From all of the presenters, that the UK is an example of definitely some great things to do, but also some things that maybe we don't want to repeat in other places because we've made some mistakes and we've taken too long to do some things. And it's also happening with the industrial transition, with some of our old infrastructure now being demolished and replaced by modern carbon-free sources. And so that message is coming out loud and clear, not only from us in the UK, but also our international community. So the Paris Accord was obviously a key moment in terms of the world agreeing that climate change is its greatest present danger, and signing up for a transition.
Yes, it would be great if all participants can help participate in this poll, please.
I think, as I mentioned, that when you start to make purchasing decisions, price, reliability, and actually origin of technology become quite important issues in certain contexts.
For this next topic, I'll be speaking myself. So hopefully, if you have any questions or comments, please do put them in the chat box. And in this topic, I'll hopefully cover a range of the options that we may look into to how we could leapfrog in energy transition, finding the information and the available knowledge shared between both inside Indonesia and also externally from Indonesia, and how we can move forwards in that. Okay, so again, we're going to look at briefly how to leapfrog in energy transition and what the opportunities are for Indonesia. Now, we having heard from the last few speakers over the past couple of days, and we've had this great wealth of information both from the Indonesia and in the UK experience. First, take a look at this. I'd like to bring everybody to this space that we understand as a leapfrog method. First thing is, which is key, I think, is how do we spot good practice? So the ability to spot good practice so that it enables us to make that decision whether we can jump ahead. Now, how do we identify good practice? There are many ways of doing this. So one of them might be to get in touch with the individuals or the groups of individuals who have delivered excellent results. So this last topic of the training will be delivered by Gareth. Gareth, it will be you now on the role of energy systems modeling, target setting, and the relations to the key instruments and development and for change in Indonesia.
So we talked about the SDGs and JESI, and one of these things is that I think they're really important because they give us this overall social objectives and guiding principles. And in establishing a program of change, it's really important to have a common base. Part of the tools that we have available for this are looking at modeling, and modeling is important because it allows you to look at futures and alternatives in a kind of non-intrusive way, if you like. It allows you to explore options without actually changing people's lives, and in many cases without spending huge amounts of money. It's incredibly important to understand where your resources are, the level of resources that are there, and their proximity to markets.
At this point, I think it would be good to have some remarks from the embassy.
So these sessions, they're really part of our broader UK-Indonesia MENTARI low carbon energy partnership. And we hope that further UK expertise that we can provide will be useful for ESDM, PLN and other ministries in government to help, deliver our mutual objectives to accelerate energy transition, particularly with the government's recent and very, very welcome commitments around net zero.
Akhir kata kami ucapkan terima kasih kepada seluruh peserta, narasumber, serta semua pihak yang turut berpartisipasi dalam acara pelatihan ini. Dan tak lupa kami ucapkan terima kasih yang sebesar-besarnya kepada pemerintah Inggris Raya, tim program MENTARI, dan Aquaterra yang telah membantu terselenggaranya acara ini dengan sangat baik. Semoga penyelenggaraan pelatihan ini dapat membantu pemerintah Indonesia, khususnya Kementerian SDM, dalam mengembangkan, merenegosiasikan, dan menjalankan strategi energi terbarukan yang lebih progresif demi mewujudkan dekarbonisasi yang sesuai dengan tingkat nasional dan daerah. Dengan mengucapkan Alhamdulillah, pelatihan manajemen jaringan listrik dan integrasi energi terbarukan dalam transisi energi kami tutup secara resmi. Wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.